everyone, welcome to Life Talks. Today I have Cameron, who is an entrepreneur, started his own venture called Book Blasters. Actually, let me give it to Cameron to introduce his background and what he's doing these days.
Hi, thank you so much, Sophie, for having me on the show. I have kind of stumbled my way into being a SaaS founder. When I went to Howard University for undergrad, I went to study politics, and I wanted to change the world, whatever that meant.
How
But
did you want
the
to change the world by being like a better leader?
Yeah, actually, so Barack Obama became president he was elected in 2008, inaugurated in 2009, and that was my junior year of high school. And I actually went to his inauguration. Just going to DC, being around, those millions of people, and, being a part of that historic moment. I was actually just watching one of the speeches from the last rally in Virginia in 2008, when he was talking about fired up and ready to go. And that was such a big part of what inspired me to come to DC. I was raised in the Twin Cities in Minnesota.
Okay.
So when I was done with high school, I really wanted to get out of Minnesota, partly just because the winters are so cold. But I definitely knew that I wanted to study politics, and I wanted to go to an HBCU. And so there is no better HBCU to study politics than Howard University in the heart of DC. But from there, I realized that in order to get things done, politically or otherwise, you have to have some money. And that money can either be yours or it can be someone else's. So the more I learned about what I really loved about politics, it was really messaging, and what ultimately I would learn is marketing. So yeah, it has a specific flair on it when you're running a campaign, but building a successful campaign is the same whether you're talking about running for president or releasing a new burger at a local restaurant. So yeah, we talked a little bit before the call. I did a lot of work with local restaurants before the pandemic, and that's where I fell in love with marketing, video marketing in particular. And then when the pandemic hit, that world that I was a part of kind of shut down. Well, it really did shut down, and that's when we pivoted our agency to working with authors. And so once we started working with authors, we realized that there was a huge need, because authors really suck at marketing their books. And it was a opportunity for us to apply our skills that we had learned in kitchens and all other types of venues. That we got to work on some really cool projects with some really cool people. And since we had the marketing skills, we knew how to put a compelling offer in front of the right audience. It was a really easy decision for us to pivot to working with authors. From there,
I have a question for
yeah,
you.
yeah,
What, like,
please.
restaurants is very different from authors, but yeah, you did mention you started politics. Ultimately, it's messaging. Why authors? Because there are like 100,000 different other things. How did you nail down? Because it's off, like you pivoted for the right reasons, at the right time. It was the need of the hour. But what motivated you to go into that?
Well, a few things. My wife had just finished publishing her first book, and so that was it made it easier just from proximity to look at books. But once I got into it, it was also a very appealing niche, because in the restaurant industry, as much as I love working with chefs and eating great food and like all that stuff that comes with being in the
Comes with it, okay.
industry, you're right, a lot of perks, but the margins are razor thin. This is before inflation and the prices of ingredients. I feel for all of my friends that are still working in that industry, just because it is so tough. Um, and if you can learn to operate in that environment, then putting together a campaign for books where it's not it's nowhere near as fast paced as the restaurant industry. So being able to go slower and think more long-term strategies, like for an author, a lot of times they are a market, they're a group of people that don't really have time or interest in doing a lot of ongoing work with their books. But when they publish their books, mostly our authors that we serve with our agency and serve now with Book Blast are self-published. They get through the process, the gauntlet of self-publishing, and then it's like, well, now what? So we were in a great position to apply our skills from the restaurant industry, and it is different when you're talking about politics. I worked on city council campaigns, governor campaigns, gubernatorial campaigns, I guess is the correct term, and restaurants, breweries, I ran the gamut on marketing. And you're right, there are nuanced differences from industry to industry, but the principles of putting together a compelling offer and putting it in front of people who want it, that goes across the board. And then when you just really take the time to learn about the nuances of a niche, it just allows us to put together even more compelling offers.
Okay. So basically, I was thinking the target user segment could be very different. People who are outgoing, outdoorsy, and now these are readers, and even like restaurants. In restaurants, you have cooks, chefs, as you were saying, versus authors. So the personas are different. The approach could be different. It's like really 360-degree kind of move. But yeah, of course, skills are transferable. I was just wondering, maybe there are musicians and so which need marketing as well. So I was just wondering how, but I think if your wife was a musician, it could be possible then. And it starts with a problem at hand which you're solving and you're like, wow, this is interesting, right? I get it. So what
Exactly.
so basically I'm understanding you did it successfully for her, like a home project, and then you basically that was dipping your toes, and then you felt like, okay, I could do. So were there any challenges that you overcame? What was it, like one man show, or you had a team to convince that this is the segment we are going after? So did you have to learn something? Of course, I'm sure learn many new things. So how was the journey? What can listeners learn from this, like other than trusting your instincts that yes, if something happens, life is throwing lemons, you can make a lemonade and make more than that.
Yeah. So my next book is called The Way the World is Moving: The Rise of the Passion Economy.
Okay, so you're
So
an author as well?
I am, yeah. So
Oh, okay, that's cool.
I wrote the book called Bottomless Book Sales as well. So that's the name of our methodology. So the Bottomless Book Sales methodology is creating a optimized landing page, bringing targeted traffic to that landing page, and then converting that traffic into email subscribers and obviously purchases as well. But the email subscribers are extremely important, especially for new authors who are looking to build their audience, because that's an owned asset where they can reach out to those subscribers and tell them about new books, ask for reviews. Most of the time when authors struggle to get reviews, it's because they don't ask for them, and they don't ask for them because they don't have the ability to, because they don't have an email list.
So how
Amazon
do you advise somebody, let's say, sorry, I'm interrupting you again. It's let's say
please.
writing a book. I'm writing a book, let's say. When should I work with you, and what's your framework? Because it sounds like it's a growth marketing, like in product we have that, and the other product is book itself. So how should one approach? What's the process like?
Yeah, so I actually don't work with clients anymore. We shut down our agency and we went all in on Book Blaster, which is our AI tool that takes our bottomless book sales methodology and makes it packages it in a self-service tool that uses AI to execute it like you have a marketing agency. Yeah, so but it's all about putting your book in front of people who actually want it. I think if you're an author and you're watching this and you don't take anything else from this conversation, You can have the best book in the world, but unless you're putting it in front of people who are actually interested in it, then you're going to struggle. The way I thought about it, like I have a metaphor in my book, that it's like trying to sell dog food to someone who doesn't own a dog. If you have a book and you're constantly trying to promote it to the wrong audience. Most authors, they get on their Facebook or their wherever, and they promote directly to their friends and family. But if your friends and family are your target audience, if your book is about the history of New Orleans, chances are that's not your target. Maybe if you live in New Orleans, sure, that's actually might be a bad example, but chances are, even still, even if you live in New Orleans, chances are your target audience is not the people that you just knew from whatever proximity in your life. So the ability to put your book in front of those people is already going to put you 80% of 80% closer to where you need to go. The next step is to understand that when you're running an ad campaign or running any type of marketing campaign, the goal is to get as many eyeballs and as much information as possible, as inexpensively as possible and as quickly as possible. So with an author who's busy and it's like, I just want my book to sell, the three-pronged strategy that we have for this is just, okay, you just need to you have to have a landing page that sells your book, that works on your behalf to sell your book, and collects people's email addresses. We have to bring people that are actually interested, and so that's where we have a targeting strategy, and we primarily use meta ads. But you have to be able to reach people who are not only interested in books, but also interested in the specific topics of your book, and then convert those people. And ultimately, that's how you get customers. So yeah, that's it.
So basically you target through like all these meta products where you know exactly the audience and then show the ad of the book to them. So it's more like targeting prospective audience, getting people who have bought the book versus who might be buying on
Exactly. So instead of just targeting, everyone in the world or, your friends and family, you're going to reach out to, or you're going to offer your book to people who are interested in books and interested in sports history, for example, if that's what your book is about. So the ability to break out of that bubble, that friends and family bubble, I call it. That's what a simple sales funnel strategy will do. But the problem with sales funnels is, if you've ever built one, is they suck. Like, it's terrible to put together landing pages and email campaigns. It's super tedious. There's a lot of steps. And so since we were doing it over and over and over again and helping so many authors, but we still wanted to help more, our thought process was, well, how can we make this go faster and be less painful for us? And in that pursuit of frictionless marketing on our end, we were like, well, wait a minute, what if we make this a tool that authors and publishers can use for themselves? And that's what Book Blaster became.
Interesting. So that's where now you feed in the book, the details, metadata, and AI kind of takes over, finds the right places, like Meta could be one of those and some others. And okay, got it.
Exactly.
You can't scale it for podcasts, I'm just thinking.
It's really interesting. What we're doing now with like the release of GPT-4 and working with partners at LangChain and Pinecone, using vector databases to give each author essentially their own version of GPT that they can build strategies with. And one of the other things that's really unique about our work is we know that we're serving a group of people that if they had it their way, their books would just sell themselves. So our goal is not to build a new version of Canva where there's still a lot of responsibility on the end user to implement the designs. We want to take all of the guesswork out of it for authors and simply deliver marketing strategies that move the needle for them. And so what we're doing is we actually put together landing pages. For example, we take a book cover and we use computer vision to get the color scheme and compile that into a complete landing page. And authors can host on Book Blaster, but they can also just download the landing page and add it to their WordPress site if they'd like.
Okay.
With our targeting for our first version of Book Blaster, we released a keyword. We have both a keyword finder for Amazon, but then also an interest explorer for Facebook. If you're familiar with Interest Explorer, the software, it's a mini version of that built into our platform, where we're searching the Facebook API for interests and specifically interests, so that we can create layered audiences that are filtered specifically for those interests. So the next logical step is to take a entire manuscript, now that we can work with longer inputs in general, but just bigger data sets, and being able to cross-reference that not only with interests that are targetable on Facebook, but also keywords on Amazon, keywords on Google as well. Any place that we've been manually having to cross-reference it, these, and also the fact that when we were helping authors as an agency, we didn't read their books. We didn't have time to actually read all of the books of, so we were basically
more readers here.
Yeah, right. So we had to get some, we had to rely on summaries of the books, and that already leaves room for error. So even to the question about metadata, we can now extract our own metadata, and help authors define keywords, because in our very first version, we were asking authors for keywords, and we quickly got rid of that because we realized that this is an audience that needs help figuring out what those keywords are, not being tasked with inputting those. So challenges like that are what we've been working on.
Wow, I learned like the whole book blasting process today. That's interesting. Let's pivot a bit. Tell me more about, like, from your interesting background from politics to now being an entrepreneur in publishing domain. Like, what's the most challenging thing that you think you have taken, and like and maybe we can learn from it? Something you have mentioned that, but still, like, going like a little bit deeper in the layers. Overall, it looks like, yeah, easy, it should be portable, but I'm sure it wasn't. So
yeah. I think one of the biggest challenges for me in my career has been getting over my own fear of being the person. When I was doing work with local restaurants, local businesses, it was very easy to hide behind the camera in a lot of ways and just be behind the scenes. And I was good at that work. I imagine I still would be if I tried, but I was also avoiding what I knew I ultimately want to do and feel that my purpose is to do, which is lead and to teach and coach other people to do the same. So once I was able to partially by force, being forced out of the restaurant industry. My mom also sold her house. I was living in my mom's basement, and it forced me out of all the comfort zones that I had built up for myself. So that was a big step in making me realize my potential. So I'm still working, but
amazing. Thanks for sharing, Cameron. I think as I'm talking to people, this often comes up that it's us who are the hurdle, right? Not anything outside world. You just have to take a step forward, and perhaps it can lead into something big. I'm sure you are like, you don't want to go back to the restaurant business now. Even the world is opening. You're like happy being a SaaS entrepreneur here, working with AI and all the tech, right?
Well, it's interesting. Yes. And slash but I think about
maybe
now that I have the one more time. I missed that.
Food is calling you.
Oh, right. I always love food, and I think that I think My wife and I we're gonna own a coffee shop by the beach somewhere someday. But will it be to make money? I think it's a terrible way to make money. I think it's a great way to meet people and hang out and have an excuse to eat food and drink good drinks. But um, I do love the SaaS world for so many different reasons. I love the ability to make something out of nothing. The food business is so hard tied to the real estate business and so many other, the farming industry and so many other businesses that you can't separate it from. And not to say that software lives in a vacuum either. Obviously, there's APIs and an entire ecosystem that you're a part of as well as a software developer. But it's such a cool system to be a part of, and it's so cool to understand how to make cool stuff like that. But I also think about the people that work really hard in the restaurant industry and think about the power that technology, AI, automation have to help. I think a lot of people are very afraid of, the jobs that are disappearing and, all these different things that are true and changing. But on the flip side of that, I think it's very important to remember the abundance of opportunities that are being created faster than ever. And those by far outweigh the jobs that are being replaced, in my opinion.
I second on that. I hear that even in the tech circle with my friends. Hey, what is gonna happen to the world in 5 years, 10 years? Even the product management, is it gonna be taken over by AI? I personally think there could be multiple, like as you said, even when the whole tech thing came, when people were like mining and now everything is on the like online, maybe the real malls were closing. We are having more jobs, more people are working and better paid, right? So world is
Yes.
always better. And I was also reading maybe we humans will work 4 days a week, which is better. We should be enjoying, and robots should be working for us. Why we have to work? We say
Right.
5 days, but really end up working a lot more. As a startup founder, I am sure you must be working hard. So maybe our work will be less and we get to enjoy in our coffee shops. And really that's what life is about, to have that work-life integration. And maybe that could be a promising future. So yeah, I am also optimistic about it, that in either way, either it increases the jobs, what we are doing, or it takes our work, but for betterment, it's good for humans.
I agree, and
At a
I
high
think
level.
if we can reimagine what a job is and what it
Yeah.
means to work, yes, you're right. I do work a lot of hours, but so many hours, it doesn't really feel like work ever. I feel like I'm reading about things I'm interested in, and I'm meeting cool people like yourself. And you know, are we working right now? I think if we are, this is not the worst job in the world to
No, I'm
um
not. It's like
to
energizing. So I think there are some parts of the work, real work, that I enjoy, but some parts we don't enjoy, like 100% of the things in our work. But yeah, in all transparency, I started this podcast during pandemic. One of my friend was in New York, another one was in Chicago. I was in SF. We used to connect and chat over different topics. Some of our other friends were asking, "Hey, can you invite us to the chat?" And then it was hard to coordinate. We were like, "We'll record this," because we used to discuss some strategies on some specific things and share with you. So it was just like just meant to share with few friends, and then I started enjoying it, like would look forward to it next time when are we meeting. So I am just thinking it gives me energy, and some projects should be energizing. And
exactly.
like in Hindi they say, like, keep doing the thing and don't worry what is the outcome. So you don't have to do
Yes.
everything in life with a purpose or an outcome, right? Sometimes it's like a jungle gym, maybe it will come bring something nice. If not, then at least it's energizing and fun
I
to meet
like that.
and hear stories from people like you and get inspired. If
Exactly.
I'm gonna publish my book, then I'm gonna come to you. Now I know. So I learned something,
Well,
right?
thank you. Well, sign up for Book Blaster. We're working to make Book Blaster as good as hiring us as an agency. There are there are many areas where AI is uh, clearly not HI, right? It's not the real deal intelligence, but it does allow us to um, get through some of those tedious tasks that hold us back from doing the work that we love to do.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that. Any fun thing, last question for you before we end today's conversation. It has been wonderful talking to you. Any fun element that you discovered, like the joy, because I also want to chat about that yes, you took risk, all those like hardships and all, and now landing in the space of joy in your professional life.
Go for walks. That was advice that my grandfather gave me, and it's also in my mom wrote a chapter in a book called Sisters of the Academy, and I reread that recently, a couple of years ago. And it's one of the things, we have a husky puppy now. Her name is Fatima. She just turned 1, and she
Okay.
has tons of energy. And so that means tons of walks and going outside. And it is, especially in the wintertime, it's sometimes easy to groan when she wants to go hang out, especially because she's a husky and she loves it. But it is on those walks, and it is when I take the time to listen to my own thoughts and listen to nature, listen to God, that I feel the most growth. So don't forget to go on walks.
That's your source of joy, and you truly feel that taking this new step, pivoting your career, has brought more joy to your life. Taking risk has actually been more fruitful. Thank you so much, Cameron, for sharing your story. Very inspiring and different from any other talks I've had. So thanks for coming on the live talks.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Sophie.